Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high-performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. Today, I'm excited to bring you a new interview episode. My guest today is serial entrepreneur and fiction writer Chris K. Jones. Chris is a lifelong entrepreneur who started his first company at the age of 23 to provide accounting services in Princeton, New Jersey. In the late 1990s, Chris worked as an outsourced CFO, raising capital for startups in New York City's Silicon Alley. He raised over $2 million for a text-to-speech company and negotiated the sale of their software to Microsoft. In September 2009, he became a co-founder and CFO of a construction equipment rental company that he grew to 11 locations and 125 employees within 10 years. As a CFO, Chris' financial and business strategies enabled the company to expand beyond 30% per year, and he raised over $40 million in debt financing, which put his company on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing privately held companies for 7 years in a row. His latest ventures include Think Strong Ventures that focuses on health, wellness, podcasts, and entertainment, and the health and wellness accountability platform Verb, which has grown exponentially during the pandemic. And as if that wasn't enough, Chris is also the writer of the fiction novel Head Case about a troubled psychologist who is treating professional athletes with real traumatic issues, and his own childhood traumas and gambling addiction get him in trouble along the way. So that sounds super interesting. And as I mentioned before, maybe we should have you back on the show with the book feature for the Wired for Success book club. Anyway, I guess it's fair to say that Chris can teach us a thing or two about entrepreneurship, a winning mindset, and the importance of mental health and fulfillment in your life, which is why I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So welcome, Chris, and thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Thanks, Claudia. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Chris, when I talk to serial entrepreneurs like yourself who started their first business at a very young age, I always wonder how they grew up. Because when I look back at my own 20-something self, I didn't have the confidence or courage or skills for that matter to start a business. I'm a very reluctant entrepreneur, and maybe that's why I admire people who always knew that entrepreneurship was gonna be their path. So I'm gonna go with the cliche therapy question here. Tell me more about your childhood. What was it like to grow up for you? What were the challenges and difficulties you faced, and but also what kind of support did you have, and what were the things that were encouraged and rewarded in your family?
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to talk about that. I grew up in Rutherford, New Jersey, just a suburb outside New York City, so I could see the Empire State Building from my room, and there's a patch through the trees. And I always was a hard worker, and we didn't have a lot of money. We struggled a lot, and I didn't like that so much. And so I was always figuring out any which way to make a dollar. I mowed lawns. I was so small at the time the lawnmower weighed more than I did, and it would pull me down the hill and everything. But I did that. Lemonade stands we would do. shoveling snow. One of the funniest ones is we all went out to shovel snow. We'd knock on the old lady's door and we'd show her our shovels, and she's like, "All right, we'll mow we'll shovel your. Can we shovel your walk?" And she says, "Sure, fine." And then a friend of mine had a snow blower, and then she'd come through with a snow blower, and she said, "Oh, you got done fast." Like, yeah, we work really hard.
Awesome.
So it was kind of anything we could do to make money. Just a couple dollars really helped. And and then I was always just wanted to figure out a way how to, I had, several traumatic experiences just as a boy, wearing other people's clothes and them coming to me and telling me that was their clothes and, and things like that. Like, I didn't know. But that's all we could do. My parents did the best they could, and they put a roof over our head and did the best. But I definitely didn't like that. So,
Sure.
anything I could do. So that's kind of like what geared me towards business and accounting. I kind of always had a head for numbers, and I'm right brain, left brain. So I have a real creative side as well as the logical side. And I kind of always had creative things going on as well as, but I really found a joy for accounting. And so that kind of helped get me started, and because it's what I always like to do. I like numbers, and I did get some really good experience in college. I was the youngest accountant hired by this environmental firm. So I wasn't even 21 years old yet, and they sent me around the country on big spills. When I was my second summer doing that, it was the biggest spill in the Delaware River, and I was running a site. Now I'm 21, just 22. And there's 200 people on this site, and I'm handling all the accounting. And it was really long hours. It was 7 days a week, 12, 14 hours a week of high stress work going all day long. But it built, I think what that did, that helped me build the confidence, because every time I went to an environmental site, I sort of had to build my own little company. I had to get an office space. I had to get a trailer. I had to get everything set up. So that helped me give a little bit of the confidence. But then corporate world just didn't fit with me, and I knew. So I say entrepreneurship chose me because I really didn't have any other choice. I really just didn't fit in corporate environment. And when I graduated in 1990, there weren't any jobs. So I figured I'll go make my own. And I didn't know better that that's what you're not supposed to do. So I even had an uncle who sold planes to the Japanese and he's like, "You can't start a consulting company. You're too young." And I was like, "Too late. I already have a client." So, and I kind of went that way. And that helped me really get going. And I learned a lot. Of course, you make mistakes along the way, and we'll be happy to talk about them too.
Yeah, that's a great story. I mean, did you have a childhood hero or a role model that you looked up to? And if so, who was that? And what made that person so special in your eyes?
No, but I made up my own. My friends and I would pretend that we were like these super amazing athletes that could play 3 sports and so we made up our own worlds. And we made up my own hero and my own little sports hero, and then we would have these incredible lives, flying everywhere and doing big things. Like, it was just our world of make believe, and I do credit that to my ability to build worlds in my writing, because it's something that we always did. But it was bigger than everything. It was things that nobody was doing. Even like our statistics were things that now they happen, but back then when we were boys, it didn't. So it was more fun for me. That's why video games were like boring for us, because the imagination that we had in the worlds we were creating in our mind were far more fun and exciting. So
that's amazing. I love that. Now, when you look at yourself and your life today, do you think you embody some or all of those traits and characteristics that you admired in your own self-made childhood hero?
Of course, in the world of make-believe, everything goes perfect.
Sure.
In life, and in my life, things have not gone perfectly. There's been lots of struggles and trials and tribulations, but definitely that helps too. I think being able to overcome those obstacles. I think confidence was a thing that I really had to work on. And it wasn't always easy for me. I don't think I wouldn't call it imposter syndrome. That's something I never believed that. I just felt, oh, I need to get better. I always felt I need to get better. Even as an athlete, I was always the hard worker one. I didn't have the skill that most of the other people did. So I just made up with it by, I'll get to practice first, I'll leave last, I'll work harder and just put in the work ethic. Because that was something that I always had control over. And that's something I've always had. And I got that from my family. Everybody was hard workers in that. But risk was not, to go back a little bit, risk was something that really wasn't tolerated. And we were very, very risk averse. But I didn't see it that way. I mean, I just saw it as I was taking a bet on myself. Plus I was, billing by the hour. There's not a whole lot of risk. And that's a great way if you want to start your first company, if you want to go out. It's a very low risk way. If you're doing consulting, you're billing your time out. It's very low risk. You're not buying space or getting into rent or needing inventory to purchase, where the risk is much lower, and you can kind of make that jump and then see and then just work on scaling. So, for me, it was really a matter of, I didn't think I had another choice. And then it just fit the way that I lived my life and how I thought about it. But definitely it was hard. I mean, it was really, really hard. And I don't believe in the overnight success. We joke, it's like, yeah, I'm a 30-year overnight success, right?
Yeah.
People only hear about it after you have that certain moment, but they don't see everything that went behind, all the work, all the long hours, the weekends, the sacrifice. And there is some sacrifices you have to make.
I love that. I love that mindset shift that you mentioned, from being very risk averse, but also betting on yourself, because I think that is one thing that's so important. And it's something that it's a mindset shift that I needed to make for myself as well, because I also come from a very risk averse family. So it was something that I really didn't feel comfortable. Taking risks is something that made me really feel really, really uncomfortable. So I had to have the same mindset shift there. The reason why I asked the question is because this is actually a great exercise that I like to do with my clients. So we find a role model who already displays the character traits and or skills that you want to acquire. And then you imagine stepping into that person's body to learn what it would feel like to embody those qualities. And it's actually less creepy than it sounds. And it's really effective because it doesn't just involve your thinking brain, but it allows you to develop a felt sense in your body. And as you might know, emotions and feelings trump logic any day. So if something doesn't make you feel good, you have to rely on willpower and your ability to make you do it anyway. But if you can link positive feelings to the outcome that you want to achieve, you'll be able to succeed with so much more flow and fun, because your subconscious mind is on your side and steers you toward achieving your goal instead of leading you to sabotage your own goals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely you want to, if you can find those people to mimic. And I totally agree. I mean, I used to do the kind of those meetings with people who your favorite people throughout history, and do those mental meetings and ask them questions, and they would answer. It would be really pretty interesting how they would even answer. And so I think you can use your mind and your imagination in that way. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be creepy. You could say, okay, what's it like to feel this way when I had 100% confidence, if I had the ability to do what I need to do? So much is visualization, even in sports too. A lot of it was visualization and seeing yourself. My sport is judo, and just seeing myself, okay, what are going to be my throws? What's going to happen? What am I going to do? And a lot of times I didn't even know what throw I did. I had to go look at the video to see, because I had no idea when you're in that flow state, and how to get yourself into that flow state, whether it's a big meeting, whether it's a presentation. an interview, a sales call. You got to get yourself in that flow state. And however you need to get there, whether it's like, maybe that hero is right behind you and they're with you in that room, or you just embody that. So yeah, anything you can do with your mind to reinforce those thoughts and feelings. And yeah, it's all about being in that present mindset.
Yeah, so important. I'd love to talk about loss, failure, and resilience for a moment, because as you mentioned before, I know that one of your startups, this mobile gaming company, came crashing down in the aftermath of 9/11 when the phone companies discontinued the project. Is that right?
Yeah, I raised money August 31st, 2001. We were ready to go. We had contracts. They were just waiting for them to be signed on the other side. And I figured, it was just enough money, get us through the months. I can finally start paying the developers reasonable wages. And people were coming and working. I called it my Tom Sawyer program. They'd come and work for free for a month, and then they would get a job. So like a 1 month. And we built a very happy place to work. And it was leading edge technology. Mobile gaming in 2001 was just starting. And we were so far ahead. But I think one of the lessons of that too is do not go into a really established industry with leading edge ideas and not fully understand that industry inside and out. We didn't understand how the companies worked well enough. But yeah, we didn't get phone calls back until November. Like just nobody answered our emails, and we were scrambling. Our last ditch effort, we went to Japan and gave a presentation to Yomiuri Media. It was like 100 people in this room. And we gave the presentation. They really loved it. And the chairman said, if you can show me where this has been successful in the United States, we'll buy it right now. Now, for the Japanese to give a commitment is really unheard of. Everyone gasped at the table. And I was like, we don't have a customer. We were hoping you would be first. And he said, no. So, January 2nd, we closed down the company. I had to say, and my partner lost a lot more money than I did. And it was a great company and great people. And I lost everything. So I did really well with that text-to-speech company, took that money, put it in because I felt like, everything's going to be great. I'll never have to worry about money again. No, I lost that and more. I was deep in debt. Jobless, deep in debt, recession, this whole thing going on, and it really knocked me for a loop. And I think there's really nothing worse if you've been poor, make money, and then lose it all. So, but it came down to a conversation. A friend of mine, I'm Buddhist, and one of my Buddhist friends called, and he was a real chill guy from San Francisco, Josh, and I was going on, wah. And he said, don't worry about it. You're a survivor. I said, what? Because you're a survivor. You'll get, I was like, you know what? Damn it, I am a survivor. So I got off that call and I said, in 90 days, I will get a new project. And in 89 days, I got a project with a wonderful organization, the 92nd Street Y. I have a specialty in nonprofit accounting. And for 10 years, they were an incredible client and business partner. And it was great. They really saved my financial life and got me through. And I learned a lot and I helped them a lot. And it was a wonderful, wonderful 10 years that helped me then go to my next one. So I think the resiliency is you can't give up. You have to keep going. Even when you're down, things will turn around. It's not always going to be bad luck. And you just have to believe in it. And it was hard. And those 89 days was contacting everyone I knew, going to lunch. Sometimes they helped me. And it wasn't direct. So it wasn't, I contacted Claudia and Claudia got me work. It was, I contacted Claudia. Claudia happened to bring it up in a conversation with someone who brought it up in another conversation, and they talked to me. So you never know how that path is going to go. I am not like direct, nothing ever works like how it does normally for me. It's always an indirect way. But, the universe is perfect and it works in your favor when you need it to. It's just not always the timetable. I know I'm a very impatient person. And I think it never works on my timetable, but it will. But you really have to believe relationships are key. I think that's the one thing, another stressor, that relationships are really the key to business. It's the really last, what I call unfair advantage. I mean, why people will do business with you over everyone else, so where price doesn't become an issue. It's really because they believe in you and they want the services you're having. They're going to pay a premium because of the relationship that you built.
That is so important. So important. Relationships are probably the most important thing that you could focus on in your business, right? And I know that must have been really, really hard when that business failed. And it's great to hear how you were able to bounce back and learn from the lesson and not get defeated by by life. Now, a question that some listeners might ask is, why did you walk away from a very successful career later on when you were, the successful entrepreneur and CFO, and then you walked away from that to pursue writing? What happened?
So I always wanted to write. And again, I had that battle between my left brain and my right brain. I was taking creative writing classes, and I was part of a gifted and talented in writing. And I really loved accounting and math and business and statistics. And I loved business. And I think, and I had a conversation with my English professor when I was 19. So I was in the accounting department, and she said, Chris, you're really talented. You should switch from accounting and pursue your writing. I said, look, I grew up poor. I don't want to be a poor, starving artist. I'm going to go make some money, and then I'll write. And it just took me a while, but I really got back in around 2012, 13. I really started to get back into my writing. And then over those years, I'd, kind of be CFO during the day, and at night I'd sit and write, and wrote, I wrote a play, and then I wrote a TV pilot, which Headcase, my book is based on. I started it and won awards for that in Toronto, Los Angeles, Hollywood, New York. But I didn't want to really deal with Hollywood. I think I'd have a hard time with what that is. I figured it's better if they come looking for me than me looking for them. So then I turned it into a novel. But I really think that, I always had that goal, and I'm a big believer of what's next. You should always have a what's next. So when you build that company, because so many people, they got to that day, they were going to sell their company. And I've heard stories about this, and then them stopping the deal because they didn't know who they were outside of their work.
Mm-hmm.
People used to say, oh, you're a workaholic. I'm like, no, I'm not. I go on vacation. I love vacation time. I come down here to Barbados, and been coming down here since 2012. I love vacation time. I love travel time, and I can unplug. But when I'm at work, I work. So it's understanding that balance of what you really want and need out of life. And I always dreamed of having that work anywhere, any time zone. I mean, the pandemic kind of helped with that, right? Kind of had to. So, but I always dreamed of being a writer, and that's what I wanted to do. But I didn't want to have my writing have to pay my bills.
That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure to have.
Yeah, it's a hard business. I mean, every business is hard. Elizabeth Gilbert has this really great saying that you have to be willing to eat the shit sandwich. So she called it. So sorry for cussing it. But it's a good metaphor because every business has it. I've worked in 36 different industries as a consultant and different businesses. They all have that sandwich that you have to eat that doesn't taste good. And you have to be willing to do that. And every one of them has it. And if you're not willing to eat it, don't go into that business. You have to find the part that you dislike the most about if you're going to start that business, go find the thing that you dislike. And if you're not willing to do that and more, don't go in there because you're going to hate your life. And I think that's really, really important when you're talking and focusing on having a balanced life of, inside and outside of work and having other interests, and just feeling good about your life. I think that's important. The world of entrepreneurship is difficult. It's hard. You have to make sacrifices. But the one thing I would definitely recommend to everyone is do not sacrifice your health. I did that. And I got to the point that when I turned 50, I said, I can't do this anymore. This isn't worth it. Because it's not worth to have all this success and end up in a hospital bed. And at the end of your life, I don't think there's anyone who said, damn it, I wish I worked more.
Exactly. So
right?
true.
So keep the one thing when you do entrepreneurship, if you're going to go that way and your focus of your life tends to be on your work, find that balance, find some type of exercise or health routine, yoga, meditation, practicing mindfulness, eating healthy. What goes in feeds your brain health. So I'm a big advocate of brain health and doing things to help your brain. That's practicing music, learning languages, doing something completely different. Anything you can do to promote brain health will keep going and make you sharper in your day-to-day work. Got to take care of your health. That's first and foremost. Your family depends on it.
That's so important. And that's also why it's one of the pillars of my sustainable success framework. So we focus on mindset, but we also focus on your physical health. And that includes what you eat. It includes hydration. It includes sleep and exercise, because those are all things that keep you healthy. And you have to have those high performance habits if you want to stay happy and healthy in the long run. But if you had to rank wealth, health, relationships, purpose, and say happiness according to their importance, what do you feel is the most important one in your life right now that you would want to have more of?
More of. I'm really fortunate. I have most of those things. I have time. I have resources. I have really good people in my life that support me. I think it would be arrogant for me to ask for anything more than what I have. I mean, I'm sitting on a beach in Barbados right now. It's life is really good. Life is really, really good. I don't, one of the things that people have asked me, like, oh, don't you miss being the guy and being the finance guy and being in that startup world or being in, my last company and I'm like, no, I don't miss it. I like the life that I have where I'm in control of my time. So for me, when I did my goals, time freedom was always really, really important. I wanted the freedom to be able to do what I wanted to do that day. That's not just to loaf around, but it's just to take advantage. Sometimes you have a perfect day. It's a good day to just go for a walk and just be out in nature and connect with nature. And some days it's the great day to just really crank out and do that business deal and go higher than you ever done. I'm always looking for the peak experience, no matter what area it is in my life. I break my life up into close to what you said, 4 domains: my career and wealth, my fitness and wellness and fitness, my spirituality, personal development, self-development, and then also friends, family, and relationships. So those are the 4 kind of domains that I have, and I look to try to keep those all balanced. And I'm very fortunate. I have a nice life. We all have our struggles in life. I'm not saying everybody's, but it was worth all the sacrifices I've made to have the life that I have now. And I do think it is important to understand, what are you going to sacrifice? And maybe that just is TV time, so you can work on the other one, right? I'm not talking about, isolating yourself and being in, working 80 hours a week and not talking to anyone and this and that. There are times when that happens. When I went into selling the company, it was January 2019. It took all the way to June 28th, 2019. So it was 6 months, and I didn't see anyone. I had 4 times during that 6 months where I actually saw people. And honestly, I shouldn't have been around people. I gave myself a red card twice and sent myself home because the stress level was so high that I was afraid that one of my employees was going to walk in my office and I was going to snap. So I sent myself home because they're really wonderful people. I had a great staff of just the most fantastic people that worked really, really hard for me, and they didn't deserve that because of my stress level. You can do that. You can put up with anything for 6 months. After that, the rest of your life is going to start to deteriorate fast. So I call it strategically unbalanced. You can be unbalanced, but for a short period of time. Sometimes you do, say you get, a bad health diagnosis. You got to take care of that, and that's your focus, right? Sometimes you get an opportunity that may come along once in a life. Okay, you're going to work, but be conscious about it and say, I'm only going to do this for this period of time. Then after that, it's going to stop. So you have to be conscious and mindful of it. Then you can do it. Otherwise, keep that balance, like you said, in all those different areas. So I think that's really the key to it, is really understanding what you're doing and why all the time. Why am I doing it? So that's another question I ask myself every day. Am I doing what's in the best interest for who I am as a person, my mental health, my physical health, what I'm doing now? And a lot of times, even though I was an owner of a company that was doing really well, because our boardroom was so toxic, it wasn't, and I couldn't wait to get out. And so was it easy to walk away? Yeah, it was. Because one, I was walking away from a toxic environment. And two, I was going to something that I always wanted to do. I knew what was next. So plan for success in your life, plan for success, and then know, what am I going to do next? So in those next 5 years, I build up this company and I sell it. What are you going to do next?
Yeah. Great
Even
question.
Philanthropy. Even if you're going to dedicate your life to philanthropy, which, I think we all need to do that. If you've succeeded, give back. Give back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you said there, that you can do hard things, but you also have to balance your life in those different areas. And I totally agree with you that you can have those times in your life where it's like this intense sprint, but after the sprint, you need some time to relax. And some people just get stuck in that hamster wheel. They keep sprinting, even though they're completely exhausted. So I think what really helps people there is to review their life often, to always ask those questions that you just shared. Like, am I still on the path to becoming the person that I want to become? Or am I doing the things that are making me happy? Because if your answer is no and no over and over again, then you should probably change something, right?
Right, absolutely. And if you do have that level, that personality that tends to just get one directional and go, that's really wonderful to have a coach, like yourself, and have that person there who can be, or your best friend or your partner or whatever. Line yourself up with the people that you need in your life to go, hey, you're going off track here. Remember, we said we were going to, because it's so easy to do. You get caught in the day-to-day of things that you want, and you get really pulled off the path of your own path that you set. And it's so easy. So having that accountability partner in some way, I think, is so important to success, and in life happiness too. Having that accountability partner to say, hey, this isn't what we talked about. You wanted to do this and this, and you got distracted by shiny objects. We all do. I do.
We all do.
Right? You get that distraction and something this way, that way, and you go off your path. Well, it's great to have that reset. And definitely every quarter, if not monthly, I'm always one to review goals and what I want to do and how I'm executing in my life. And sometimes even that goal is to have a little bit more downtime to think. So it's really also understanding your own biorhythms, what the time that you activate, the time of the year that you know that you can accelerate versus time for introspection versus outward projects. So know yourself. I mean, really get to know your own mind, know your own body, know how you function, learn how you learn.
Yeah.
So I'm a visual kinesthetic learner. I struggled in exams. I'll share this with you. I got kicked out of the accounting department. So I'm probably the only person to win CFO 3 times a year. I don't have an accounting degree.
That's amazing.
I got kicked out because I couldn't take an exam and I didn't figure it out. So I went on exchange to Newcastle upon Tyne, and I got straight A's. What happened? It was all papers and presentations, things I excel at. Even working with my editor. And I said, look, Ben, you're going to teach me something over and over again. You're going to tell it and you're going to say, what is wrong with this guy? And then at some point, it's going to register because I'm going to feel it in my body. And then I'm just going to take off. And I'm going to go well past what you taught. That's exactly what happened. So learning how you learn. Like for me, I know I have to fully, it's kinesthetic. I got to feel it in my body for me to grasp it. I can't regurgitate for a test. And So it's always been a struggle of mine. So I thought I was very stupid because I couldn't do that. And now it's funny how people will tell me like I'm one of the smartest people they know. That was probably, the biggest thing I had to overcome. Like I never thought I was very smart. I knew I worked hard. I knew I was hardworking, honest, diligent. I'll, work till my fingers bleed. But I didn't think I was very smart until I started learning different ways that how I learned and how I process. That was a big breakthrough for me. That was a really, really big breakthrough, because feeling that way, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, just how school teaches us. They don't really teach you how to learn. And how now when I have to read a book or have to do, I know the time I need to take, it takes me longer. But when I get it, I could probably go in and pass all my exams now, because I can still retain classes information that I took a long time ago, and I remember things. So it's really understanding. You got to understand yourself. Spend a lot of time, as much time as you can, understanding your own mind and how you work and how you learn. You'll save yourself a lot of angst and it's really easy for me to beat myself up. So I'm really good at that.
Yeah.
Being, self-critical and learning to shut that voice down too.
It's really difficult for some people. And thank you so much for sharing that story, because a lot of people feel that they don't fit into the standard mold, right? And then it's easy for them to think that they're not smart enough or not intelligent enough or whatever. But it's really, as you said, about figuring out how you're wired, how your brain is wired, and how you can use that to your advantage so that you can succeed at achieving the things that you want to achieve in your life. Thank you so much for sharing, because that's a very important lesson that I think people just need to hear over and over again.
Yeah, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on the science of that, about how, by understanding how our brain functions in our way, what that enables you to do, or what neural pathways that set to constantly learn and achieve more.
Yeah, I think it's really about the pattern that your brain uses to go through information or to learn stuff. So how it's connected, the pathways it uses. And sometimes it's just not aligned with the way that we learn at school or something like that. So we have to figure out, so how does it work? Like for you know that you're visual and kinesthetic. So this is great to figure out, because then you know what you have to do in order to access those strategies, and then you can use it to your advantage. So a lot of the work that I do with my clients is also to help them figure out how they are wired and how they can use that to their advantage, and also how their personality traits play into this, and how their experiences have shaped the way that they see the world. And then we can start to look at all the filters and go like, is this filter really something that's supporting my current goals? Like if I have this limiting belief and I hold on to that, am I going to get to where I want to go? Or is that maybe something that was just created in the past because it was useful at some point in the past, but it's just not useful anymore and we need to let go of? But the first step is always just to become aware of those patterns, and then we can work on changing them.
Yeah, self-awareness. I think the one thing that you really hit on there was the patterns, right? Mm-hmm. So understanding your own patterns, and you can look, and that's a great thing for journaling. One of the great things of journaling, I totally recommend it as a way of a very private journal where you can kind of put your thoughts and things that are happening, how you're feeling, identify how you're feeling each day and what you're going through. And this way, when you get to an inflection point, you can look back and say, okay, this is where I was. Because it's really hard to tell and really say, how did I feel 30 days ago or 15 days ago, right? Yeah. You can remember things that happened, but how you felt that day. So by documenting it and having that level of record and detail, you can go back. So when things are working well, you can go back to that same thing. Go, oh yeah, you know what I was doing? I was exercising 3 times. I went to yoga. I meditated every day for 15 minutes. And you know what? I was eating really healthy that time. Oh, okay, no wonder. And then everything in my career was going well, right? So are they directly related? I could say yeah, because your body's feeling good, your mind's feeling good, your brain is functioning well. All these things you need to take care of. And so it's really good to, I'm just a big believer in little things. It doesn't have to be big 3 pages. It can be bullet point because it's just for you. Your own shorthand, right?
You're collecting data.
Say that again?
You're collecting data that you can use to run your own experiments. Love that.
Yeah. So even use your notes app, right? So if you don't want to use a handwritten journal, for me, like I said, I'm kinesthetic. So the connection of holding a pen and paper, I think a lot better that way. So when I really have something to do that I need to really do big ideas, I also get like big 3M paper and put it all over my walls and draw and have markers and things like that. So learning the best way how you process, I think that's one of the keys to success in entrepreneurship, learning how you learn and process information. And the next thing I'd say is have really good credit.
Great tips. Now, where can our listeners find you online if they would like to connect with you?
Sure. It's my website is chriskjones.com, www.chriskjones.com. You can sign up for my email list. If your listeners have any direct questions, they can email me at headcase@chriskjones.com. That's HEADCASE at Chris, CHRISK Jones, JONES.com. I'd be happy to answer any of your listeners' questions.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much, Chris, for sharing your story and your tips and your life lessons with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. And I look forward to hearing more about your book group and hearing other authors in there. That'll be fun.
Yes, absolutely. Take care and talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.